Charles Manson left an unspeakable legacy that the world won't soon forget. And he left another legacy, a son. Michael Bruner, whom Charles Manson nicknamed Pooh Bear, was born a year and a half before the Tate LaBianca murders. After the bloodshed, he was sent to live with his maternal grandparents in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Michael feels no connection to his biological father.
I was too young to remember anything way back in California, and it's really not part of my life.
He mentioned one time that his father tried to write a letter to him, and that he never read it, never wanted to read a letter from him, never wanted to meet his father, never wanted to come in any contact with his father.
Michael's grandparents were determined to raise their grandson in a stable, loving home, deeply rooted in religion. Michael's years here at Eau Claire Memorial High School were unspectacular. He smoked, drank, had some academic difficulty, but got into no real trouble. Michael's greatest silent struggle was dealing with who his father was and what impact that would have on his life.
There's no reason to treat me any different than the next guy, you know, just because of my biological father. And I think people do.
Did you ever talk to him about what his dad did?
Yeah, I had to fill him in. He didn't even know, really.
You were the one that told him about the murders.
Well, I had to tell him what I've read in the books and stuff, and kind of fill him in, and it's all pretty new to him. But he's a little freaked out.
Michael's mother, Mary Bruner, was not involved in the murders. Nonetheless, she's known as the First Lady of the Manson family. After the murder trials, Mary Bruner moved to Wisconsin and lived nearby as Michael grew up. Michael's relationship with her is non-traditional.
She was always my sister, but now she's just my kid's grandma. And that's worked out real good. I think since I've had the kid, we've been a lot closer.
25-year-old Michael now lives in the western United States with a longtime girlfriend and their 2-year-old son. He works as a parking valet and has dreams.
I want to be self-employed. That's a big thing, and I've been working hard towards that. Don't want to work for anybody else. Want to do it for myself.
And how will Michael Bruner tell his son about a grandfather who is now a legend in the history of crime?
Well, when the time comes, I'll know how to do it, I think, more than I do now. It's nothing I've thought about. You know, if he doesn't need to know, I don't see any reason to tell him.
There are other children of the Manson family. Tomorrow, a young man who was born in prison bounced around from one foster home to another and now has a close relationship with a former Manson family member, his mother. That's tomorrow on Action News Nightcast at 11.
Can't help but feel sorry for these kids.
Yeah, they had a real tough road, but a lot of them have overcome it.
Yep.
Thank you, Harvey. Charles Manson and his infamous family have left behind a trail of death and despair. This week, investigative reporter Harvey Levin showed us how Manson's son has conquered much of his troubled past. Tonight, Harvey introduces us to another offspring of the Manson family, a young man committed to a life outside that circle of violence.
I was more mad at the people that took her away than my mom herself.
Paul's 22 years of life have been a trial of strength. His mother, Catherine Gypsy Share, was a member of the Manson family. She gave birth to Paul in jail while awaiting prosecution for allegedly attempting to poison a prosecution witness in the Sharon Tate murder trial. Minutes after birth, Paul was placed in a foster home. He didn't see his mother again until he was 3 at the Frontera State Prison. That's where Catherine Share was doing time for a shootout in Hawthorne, a failed, bizarre attempt to free Charles Manson. Catherine Share spent 9 of Paul's first 13 years of life in prison, but they stayed in touch, and for her 3 years of freedom, the two lived together. For the most part, though, Paul lived in foster homes and a Christian group home.
She became a Christian when I was around 8 years old. That's one of the things that I see why my life is so intact right now, because I was raised like that. I was always loved,
Now Paul and Catherine live in the southern United States. They're extremely close. Both make church a central part of life. As for the past, Paul didn't learn about his connection to the Manson family until he was 14.
Someone had read a book and recognized my picture, and I think it was the Bugliosi book, and came to him and told him, "You're a Manson." And he came running home and said, "Mom, am I a Manson?" And I told him, "No, you're not."
Paul works full-time supporting himself through college. He's also in the military and wants a career servicing jets. Paul thinks his rocky upbringing has been a source of strength.
When someone is away from a loved one for a while, it sort of makes them sort of a little bit stronger. They rely more on themselves.
Catherine Scher won't disclose the identity of Paul's father. Finally, a few people who are part of the Manson family have contacted us this week objecting to some of the characterizations of family life, especially drug use. And we're working on a report you'll see later this month on Action News. It deals with how the family remembers life with Charles Manson. What's it, Tricia?
All right, thanks.
Well, the lives of the surviving Waco cult kids turn out any differently than the lives of the Manson family children. Well, the answer to that question may lie in the roots of both cults. While Charles Manson and David Koresh were different people and had different plans, there are some similarities. And perhaps the greatest was their incredible charisma.
What I saw is everyone was always quiet and listening to him, and he interpreted life for us and truth for us.
What do you think of David?
I think he's great.
And how old are you?
I'm 16.
I love him as a brother. Do you believe he's the Son of God?
I hope he is.
Many of Manson followers believed that he was Christ. Likewise, Branch Davidians believed David Koresh was the Messiah. Both Koresh and Manson spoke of a coming Armageddon. As for the children, there appears to be few comparisons. Children from the Waco compound have talked about beatings and severe discipline inflicted by the adults. To the contrary, Manson family members tell us if anyone ever struck a child, Charles Manson himself would have beaten the adult for committing the child abuse. While David Koresh appears to have been obsessed with having sex with young girls, Charles Manson was obsessed with sex in general. Stories of group sex in the family are legendary. Also, the Manson family moved around a lot, all over California, taking the children in tow, while David Koresh and his followers hunkered down in their headquarters, Ranch Apocalypse. In the wake of the Manson family, Jonestown and Waco, Texas, cult experts say the best way to protect children from these experiences is to deal with the parents and keep them from joining the cults in the first place.
That wraps up Action News live at 5.
This